tell me what you're doing with Collect. I'm interested to hear what you're up to.
Yeah. So GroupCollect is it's a registration technology platform, and we solve a lot of the messy problems associated with the online registration and payment solutions for multi-day group tour operators. That's really
Okay.
what we have focused on. Now, that being said, that has been our target fit. So those organizations primarily work with mainly affinity groups. So churches, student and youth groups,
Sure.
those are any groups of any type. So that's been our target focus. Coming out of the gate, we've really tried to capture that market. And as we've been about a year now in the space. Came out right before COVID. It's a great time to launch a tourism business.
Great timing, by the way. I just wanted to commend you on that. Yeah.
Absolutely. So in doing that, we've actually, about half of our user base is direct to customer at the moment. And so that's been a great fit as well. So we've been working not only with professional, like the B2B tour operators, but as well as direct to customer as well. So we have we see that as being the next big phase of growth.
Sure. So those would be the groups direct, like you said, church group that is trying to organize these things on their own. Obviously, they need a lot of help. You know that from the business. So they would secure the GroupCollect platform. Is that on an ad hoc basis or is that on a subscription basis? How does that work? Because obviously they don't have the volume that a professional operator would have.
Yeah. So we're built on a transaction volume. So, they can create an account. There's no cost to, if it sits idle. Whenever they use the platform, we make a penny for every dollar, basically. For our larger volume customers, professional tour operators, we have a tiered volume agreement. So if they hit certain thresholds, we do provide them a guaranteed volume agreement if they're doing, 4 million plus, and we have different thresholds for those.
Gotcha. Okay. So what sort of pickup have you seen with this is an application or this is a desktop tool? What sort of pickup have you seen?
Yeah, it's a web-based multi-tenant application. So, just like you would see a modern web application, you can create an account. We're kind of a white labeled, mostly. The only GroupCollect branding that you would see would be just in some of the terms and conditions and some of the acceptance and the privacy agreements. But basically, it's their brand forward or their group forward. So we create a custom registration page for each group. They're able to share that via social media or direct through email channels and various other marketing channels. Their prospective user bases can click on that. They see a lovely branding page. There's a click to register, and then they can go in and select the packages, the add-ons. They're really tight, I think, industry first trip integration with TripMate for trip protection, which is really slick. Kind of solves this messy problem of folks that upgrade and downgrade in trip protection bands. So that's really nice. Particularly right now, we're seeing a really high pickup with the adult market because of the trip protection product. A lot of the multi-day group tour operators in the adult market don't have access to a non-age-based product, and our platform has an agreement with TripMate, and it really solves that problem for them.
Okay. Yeah, what I like about that is insurance has always been a very sticky subject when dealing with the groups direct market because, first of all, it requires a degree of sales in order to convince people to do it. And you don't want to find yourself in a position of having to convince somebody to buy something that you hope that they never use, right? In the insurance, like, well, you might get sick, Maud. You really don't want to put that out at risk. Well, I think obviously with COVID, that's somewhat changed the equation. People are going to be a little bit more cautious about putting money up front, and insurance is certainly viable. But the fact that they can actually do it through the registration process versus that sort of clunky presentation, and as you mentioned, the age-based bands, which are, that obviously will change the equation of what people are paying for insurance greatly.
Yeah.
So, how does this integrate with any existing accounting platforms that people use? Obviously, on a sort of professional operator basis, is this a piece of technology that they bolt on to their system, or how does it integrate with any sort of back office systems that they operate?
Yeah, it's a great question. So what we've done, Jeff, is build out what we believe is a real, we don't have a direct integration currently with, back office accounting packages such as like QuickBooks or Xero or anything like that. However, what we've built is what I believe, and I come from 20 years as a student tour operator. I believe it is the most effective payout reporting type of platform that has ever existed. So what we do, if you have a multi-group reporting system, what we do is we take each of the daily batch payouts, we summarize them by each of the groups in the system. So for an accountant on their daily standard operating procedures, they can come into the office. Each of those payouts is summarized by group. It takes about 5 minutes to do those daily processing procedures, whereas before, it might take several hours to do that, exporting them, summarizing them, et cetera. So we've really built a really slick integration to make that super tight on the payout side. It's not currently a direct push every day, although we do see that in our product path in the near future. Most of our customers are not, I would say, quite to that technological level where they're quite bolted up right there. So it just hasn't been a real need at the moment. We've just signed about 8 organizations that are quite a bit larger than I think the product was originally envisioned to be built for. So doing annual pre-COVID sales of 40 to 50 million plus. So they have a little bit different operational need than some of our initial, I think, cohorts that we had built the product for. We're thinking around the 4 to 8 million range. So as those have come on board, we've had to build out more enterprise type integration. So Salesforce, HubSpot, and those kinds of things. So we do see some opportunities for tighter integrations moving forward. As far as the other integrations, that we have built in, we do bring a lot of what I would say is more of a suite of tools under one roof. So right now, many folks are using, e-document tools, e-signature tools as a third party. That's baked right into the platform. So from the moment that organizations register, they can collect all of their permission to travel forms, all of their release of liability forms, et cetera, directly from day one. They have that built right out. We also have a form or questionnaire tool baked right in. So if they're using other products like Google Forms or Typeform or any questionnaire type software, we have that baked right into the system. So if you need to collect information, medical questionnaires, if you need to be able to know what their pre-order would be on a particular trip or something like that, you can get that right from day one. And then the other big integration that we have that's baked right into the system is our communications or announcement platform. So group leaders love it because they can send out emails to all of the participants, also broken down by any number of lists, rooming lists, bus lists, chaperone group lists, et cetera. So they can send out both email announcements and text message announcements to those individuals.
Okay, so you can use this as sort of an on-tour communication tool as well?
You sure can. So it's all of our, and that's really what it was built for. It's really just essential for traveling groups and essential for a crisis response plan for professional tour operators.
Are you able to do sort of tree communication, like to chaperones only and to teachers only, and then down to the student level? Or how does that work from a communication? Do you have various degrees of messaging you can send out, or is it sort of a blanket message that goes to everybody?
It's a really great question. It's something we're actually super proud of. So we have a really robust list functionality. So we have trip leaders that have the ability to send these messages. So if you're a group leader on the trip, or you're a parent who's been given group leader access, you have the ability to send these messages out. And then also from the administrative side, the tour operator side, or the top level side, you also have the ability to send these out. And they're all tracked, and you can see who's read them and also the deliverability of them as well, both from email and the text message side. Specifically to answer your question, you can create lists of any type. And we encourage tour operators and also group leaders to build these lists prior to departure. So rooming lists, which is, we think it's the best rooming list tool that's ever been built. It's fantastic. Flight lists. flight group 1, 80 passengers, flight group 2, 50 passengers, bus 1, bus 2, bus 3. You can send text messages specifically to those groups. Chaperone groups, if you want to create a chaperone group, Mrs. Smith, Mr. Jones, etc., you can send messages from each of those groups or to multiple selections of those groups. You could send a message to all of the boys, be downstairs at 6 p.m., to load the buses or unload the buses, if you would, something like that. So you can really break down the lists in a lot of ways. And each of those lists, when you create them, become targetable text opportunities from the announcements feature.
And that's all, again, information people are putting in as they're registering for a trip. So they're supplying their phone number, their email and such, so you know that it's accurate. A few, and I'm assuming that if you can parse that list, if I had 40 people sign up for a tour and 20 had not submitted final payment, then I could just pull those 20 out and say, due on Friday, get your payment through, versus having to do all that process manually or call those folks.
It's less than 10 seconds.
Oh gosh. Okay. So that's definitely a no-brainer. So two follow-up questions, pieces that you had mentioned earlier. Number one is the CRM integration. So you're actually able to push data back into systems like Salesforce and HubSpot and such then? Okay.
So a couple of things there. We have a read-only integration with Salesforce. We have a read-only integration with HubSpot. And then we have in the works right now a bi-directional integration with Salesforce that's in the works. And so what that means is that you'll have the ability for certain components to be able to push and pull directly from both systems. And that is more of on our enterprise level product. And so we have about 6 customers that have asked for that.
Okay. And I'm curious you said you're getting some lift from larger operators, which surprised even someone who's been in the business for over 2 decades. What problems are they coming to you with that they can't solve on your own? Because usually big operators tend to build their own stuff, right? Isn't that how they operate? Yeah,
they are experiencing the same problems, I think, that we all are, which is, they have less staff. They have less resources, and they're tired of managing these, legacy systems. So they're expensive, they're hard to maintain, and they're also seeing that there's an efficiency and a cost savings to using an off-the-shelf product. And so if they can get the benefits from that and also share from the collective daily improvements of a product that's going to grow with them at a cost savings, it's a no-brainer for them.
This is a software as a service. There's nothing to download on their systems at all. They're simply accessing all this digitally 24/7. Okay, cool. So where are you seeing groups pick this up? I'd say from an adult end, I think student market probably still pretty slow, although I've seen some pockets, some strange short-term things going on, which surprise even me, someone who's been doing this his whole life. But from the adult side, what type of groups are you seeing pick this up from a group direct side, where not necessarily where they're coming from geographically, but what's the constitution of organization?
Well, on the student side, that has been, almost silent over the last, 12 months, which you can imagine. The segment that has been somewhat successful has been the spring break and the college travel. That has almost been unaffected, to be honest with you. They've traveled on their same schedule, and they're rearing and ready to go. The individual guaranteed departure type, products have been very successful and have been able to rebound quite nicely in the second quarter, end of the first quarter, and first of the second quarter of this year. The adult market has been slowly picking up steam. And so we have had a little bit of a difficulty I would think, in getting into some of those spaces. But, some of our TAP operators and some of the bus operators that we would traditionally think of as being kind of the adult space market, some of the bank travel companies that we work with as well, those have really been a much smaller component of the platform in terms of adoption. And I think here's the reason why. They have gotten pummeled, obviously, in the front end. As they're coming back on, it's been a huge education component for them to migrate their business from what they've traditionally done into I think a more modern, online payment product. So for us, we really had, when you have limited resources, as we've done, we're completely bootstrapped. We haven't taken on any capital or any investment. It's all come out of my piggy bank. We really had to, keep a laser focus, on the market which we knew we could capture. And so we really triggered and focused really tightly on the student space, something that I knew well, and on the ones that were able to generate revenue for us in the short term. So, that student space that was departing and making payments was really something that was interesting to us. Education was a little bit of a long play for us for some of those adult markets. So it's been really slow to ramp up for us.
Gotcha. Well, the one thing to keep in mind, Corey, is that so much of what's happening in the adult market now that is going are all things that were canceled and now rescheduled. So you wouldn't implement a new software solution just to move people's dates over. So I think if you're a little patient with that, you'll see that come together.
Well, it's encouraging, I think right now initially we had just it's not the good time, and a little bit of a pushback on that front. Bud Geiser joined our team. He's got a little bit of connections on that side. He's really driven a ton of interest, particularly on the some of the ABA players as well. So that's been really interesting over the last month or so.
Okay, good. And yeah, I think this is something, I wrote a book last year called Traveling Tribes, which sort of talks about groups and how they formulate and really how to do it as a second opportunity in life or in business, or a sort of a cause for your organization. I wish I knew about what you were doing back then, because I go through the whole process of how it works. This is sort of a prescription book, and if I had the opportunity, I would have put that in there, because it certainly eases a logistical challenge for somebody who's not done this before. And that's really what I attempted to do through this book, was to sort of create this new marketplace of people that, you've dealt with groups your entire professional life, and their path to getting to you is often very long and winding. So if I thought I could streamline that a little bit through Traveling Tribes, I would help the industry move forward. But one of the points I made is that it's an offline process, and you're going to be using spreadsheets, and you're going to be, doing all this manually. So I think in my second printing, I'll do a little ditty about GroupCollect in there.
Well, I appreciate that. And, if there's anything we can do to, assist you in your platforms and as well, we'd love to do it. We have an opportunity, it's coming up, I think on May the 4th, to do a demonstration for a few tour operators. There's a Receptive in Orlando, Receptively Yours, has invited us to do a demonstration for their targeted base there. And there might be an opportunity, if you had an interest in participating on that, just to get a little inside scoop into what it looks like and how the product helps folks. I'm sure that Denise would be more than willing to let you participate on that if you'd like to.
Yeah, absolutely. And would you be open to having us send that out to readers as well, or is that more of a small closed group event?
Yeah, I think that would probably be a small group, more of a closed group, specifically targeted for their user base. If you'd like to do something where we could, open it up to your specific user base, we would love to put something on for that. That would be a great opportunity. I would really appreciate it.
Yeah. So one final question for you, as far as the user base here. On the student side, it's really the operators themselves. You could get a school that picks this up as a tool as well. What percentage of student tour business do you think is booked direct with suppliers?
So actually, I was on the board of directors with the Student Youth Travel Association, and this was actually a thing that I was very passionate about figuring out. And there wasn't a lot of data around it. So I began an initiative, a research project, I would say I was part of a committee that really pushed for this. And the research actually came out. It is estimated that as much as 62%, 65% of student travel is booked direct with suppliers.
Wow.
So 35 to 40%, somewhere in that range, is booked through an operator. There's a huge opportunity if you can find a way to capture the direct to consumer market. So it's not something that we don't appreciate.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I think there's a whole new opportunity here. I know my wife's involved in our local school system. She's the school nurse for 4 different schools. And what they've seen is sort of a turnover in some of the older teachers, partially due to COVID, that are just, they're not returning to school. So I think we're going to see this next generation of teachers come in as well, and how they're going to view things and how they're going to want to do things is going to be drastically different than the previous generation.
Yeah, they do not want to write receipts. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't think they want to stay in the classroom either. I think, they grew up traveling, and, they enjoy it and they want their kids to experience that. You and I both know the immense benefits that happen when you get kids out of the
Absolutely.
classroom and show them those real world experiences. So awesome. Well, I really appreciate your time today. People can find out more about GroupCollect through the website. Is that the easiest way?
Absolutely. They can contact me at CoreyGroupCollect.com. They can come to our website at GroupCollect.com. And, we'd love to provide a one-on-one demo. And if we have an opportunity to provide, a larger demo to your readership, that'd be fantastic as well.